welcome back. Hope you're having a good day. This is a Ficus Microcarpa. This type is commonly called a tiger bark. I'm going to be doing a little bit of maintenance work on it today. I'm going to be taking the wire off, give it a little prune. I got this wire on back in September, and to make a long story short, I had been experimenting around with different ways of moving my files around on my computer as I edit my videos, and I lost the entirety of the video except for the second to last part. So I've saved that until today. I figured I'd go ahead and show you guys that real quick. Alright, so I got the wire on there. See if I can't place some of these branches. What I wound up doing, rather than wiring these two big branches together, all together again, I wired this piece and this one together, and then put some smaller wire on the secondary. And I got some smaller wire on the secondary here too. See what I can do with this one first. This is probably the skinniest branch that I decided to keep. I left this. Sometimes I do that just as it recovers from a hard prune. That'll just kind of take off, and then as I notice, I'll notice that some of the stuff even in here will start looking like a little bit of a chia pet with little back butting in with the wire and everything. And I'll go ahead and just chop that again once I see that. Once I see a little bit of green in here. I really don't want, in the long run, I don't want the tree to be all that much taller than this now. So I'm just I keep trying to continually chopping back the apex like that just to let it build some taper. Alright, and so that leads us back to today. And we're going to go ahead and get all this wire off. And there we go. I'm sure I'll edit most of that out. Watching me take wire off is really not much to it. There's not much to explain. But now that's done. And before I start pruning it, I'll let you know what my thought process is here. First off, this is a type of Microcarpa, and then the other type that I have was sold to me as Green Mound. I'm sorry, it was sold to me as Green Island. I'm starting to think it's actually Green Mound. Depending on what country you're from, what area you're from, a lot of people call it Emerald, all kinds of other things. Long Island. This species grows so much quicker and can develop so much quicker compared to that other one, which makes me like this one. But what kind of makes it a little more challenging to work with, if this was one of my Green Mounds and it was shaped just like this, I'd come in and cut all this foliage off and just kind of cut it way back and get a nice shape and just prune for taper pretty much, and it'd come back just great. But the problem with this type is when you do that, which I've done for a couple times on this tree, it winds up getting a bunch of this just straight up growth, and it doesn't always come out of the end of the branch like you'd like it to. It doesn't always do that on the other type of Microcarpa, but for the most part it will. And then for even on the other type, when it doesn't do that, you can kind of train it out that way. But even like these right here, they are just right straight up, and there's not really any room for error trying to take it back down like the original branch was and the direction that I had in mind. I do see a growing tip. I'm going to prune it right now because I do see a growing tip coming out that way. So what I'm going to do is cut off that straight up growth. Try not to get too close there and just allow that to come out the way that I had originally intended. But that's what I'll be thinking as I go around. And then this might also be a good chance. I've had some people tell me that the tiger bark that I have is much whiter in color than theirs. When you get up in here into the new growth, you can see the tiger bark striping a lot more. This down here is just basically what's sitting out in the Florida sun will do. It just kind of wears off those stripes where they don't look as fresh. And it just winds up, I like the way it looks aged, but you don't really see the tiger stripes in it like you do on the younger growth there. All right, and then the idea, been trying to, keep these kind of traditional branches. And then somewhere up in here, I don't want this tree to be horribly tall. I mean, we'll see what happens when I get it in a little bit of a bigger pot. I have had it in this pot for about 2 years. It was just about a year ago I was going to repot it back in this pot. I pulled it out to trim the roots, and there was almost no roots to trim. I mean, I cleaned it up a little bit, but there really wasn't much to it. So I figure I'll probably leave it in here at least another year. I had some thoughts about I have been chopping, there's a chop mark here, there's a chop mark here, one there and one there. And I was thinking I was getting some movement kind of coming up towards the apex. And then at one point I thought maybe that was making too much of a bare spot. And I was thinking about taking that as a cutting. I think I'm going to take this branch here as a cutting in a minute. But before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and just kind of, I hate to use the words, but just kind of hedge prune this down a bit. In a minute, I'm going to go get this guy's son, daughter, whatever it might be. I've got 2 pots ready for a cutting. I do have bonsai substrate in there right now. I have great luck with my other type of microcarpa, the green mound or green island. I've had some mixed results with other species. I haven't done any cuttings off of this one in a little while, but I also don't have any other cactus mix or anything like that. And all of my used soil right now is basically, I used all the good soil up when I repotted the bald cypress that I got, and all the used soil that I have is basically from that. And it's just not really, it's got huge pine bark chips in it. It's just not really fine enough for work like this. So I just buy whatever rooting powder that they have at the big box store. I've got a little bit in this bowl here. It's actually from the last time I took cuttings. There's enough in there for this one and the next cutting I plan to take. Before I take this, I will point out real quick, this next tree we're going to look at, I'm going to bring in, like I said, this guy's son or daughter actually came from that wound right there. They are starting to, you can probably see they're starting to, let's see if I can give you a better look here. Starting to get healed up a little bit better. There's one there, and then another scar there too. But that's the big one where this next tree came from. And then I'm about to make another one right now. But I did decide to take it from here because all 4 of these top branches, last branches before the apex if you will, kind of are coming out of the same spot. And I feel like all of the energy is going into this one, which this is actually the back side of the tree. I've always thought of that as being the front of the tree. And this branch looks really weak. And this one really isn't putting out that much growth either. I feel like if I cut this one off, it'll allow some more growth to go into the branches that I'm for sure going to keep. So, and all I do, it's always got the nice ficus sap on there, which just makes all that rooting hormone stick. Some other species it doesn't work all that well. And I kind of thought I'd be using this for this one. This is actually a pot from one of those silly Wick and Grow self-watering ones, but it's full of drain holes. One of the ones when you get the bonsai from a big box store. And because I've got these longer pieces here, I can actually get it in there just enough and let it rest on the sides. And right in Florida right now in May is the best time for me to take cuttings. And the main thing is just holding them still. And there I can kind of get it in like that, let it rest on the sides. And we'll see what happens with that guy. Alright, here is the offspring of the tree we just had in here. Just repotted it a couple months ago. Probably about a month and a half ago. Obviously recovering well. I have it in this nice flat oval. As I look at it, I'm not in love with the way it looks like in the oval, but I am just trying to get, I was trying to get it in a pot to spread the nabari out a little bit better. I do believe over time that's going to do the trick. But I had done it when I repotted it. I left most of the foliage on there so it would make some roots, and I'm sure it has. And I left this in apex really long, and so what I'm going to do, I had actually planned on taking this as a cutting. So I'm going to take off everything up here but one growing tip, and then just take it right off there. Not going to be quite as big as that other one. That'll get in the rooting hormone. And again, you dip it in the rooting hormone when it's good and wet. Sticks right to it. And what I do, and again, these are just suggestions for what I do. I put it in there, I lean it up against the side. That'll keep it from moving too much. And as soon as it starts making some roots and growing, I'll just go ahead and get it repotted. They grow so quickly here in Florida. It's not like I've got to, leave it alone for a year and hope it roots. If it roots, within a month or two, this thing will be growing like crazy. And I'll be able to kind of, repot it, straighten it up, and get the roots straightened out, especially since I have it in the decent substrate. And then just a quick look. At the tree without the apex on there. And I just kind of figured I was going to, as soon as this got established after the repot, I was going to get some wire on it. I think now that I've cut the apex off, I'll let it get another growing spurt. And then I'll go ahead when I get the wire on there, I'll update you guys for how the cuttings did.